Am I the a-hole for saying that brother-in-law isn't stupid enough to swap his wife? My wife and I, female 30, male 33, have been married for 6 years. I have a good career, but since day one, I told my wife that I didn't want a housewife. I wanted a woman who works and be an equal contributor. She doesn't have to contribute the same monetarily, just same effort. We have a son together who is 5 years old now. My wife works as a waitress and she doesn't make much. But it doesn't matter because, as I said, I make enough to provide for a comfortable life. My wife complains a lot about her job, and I fully get that and always support her to find a new one, or even start an education to get a better one. What I don't support is her insinuating that she was ready to be a stay-at-home mom. Well, I am not ready to have an able-bodied adult to support as a child. When she quit her job, I told her that she should find a new job or we go our separate ways. She got scared and got another waiting job. Our son is well taken care of. I work mostly from home and he has been very happy in his daycare and preschool, making lots of friends. We do the chores evenly and I do all the cooking because it is a good escape from my computer job, while it is boring to my wife who works with food all day. Her sister and husband, female 35, male 45, are in an opposite situation. Her husband owns his own company and he has been begging his wife to quit working and stay with the children. She adamantly refuses. And it has been a subject of contention in their relationship. Her husband thinks that he makes more than enough and the wife loves her career. My wife has made it a habit to make comments about how she should have married a brother-in-law instead, and I married a sister. I made it clear that it wasn't funny, especially when it is in the company of her sister and her husband. She complains how it is unfair that she wants to be a stay-at-home mom but isn't allowed. Last time, it was on Saturday, we were invited for dinner with her sister and her husband. That's when my wife started complaining about her new job, and her sister and husband were very sympathetic. Then she said, "We should just swap spouses here. This is so unfair that I am stuck, and my sister doesn't even know how lucky she is." I was very angry and said, "Well, only an idiot would let your sister go." Everyone chuckled but my wife, and husband said, "Yeah, I would be a moron to let a woman like this go," and kissed his wife. My wife became very silent afterwards and she hasn't spoken to me since. I think I hurt her, and honestly, I think I'm done because I'm exhausted. Your wife was being manipulative. You shut this down, let her pout. Then tell her you will absolutely not tolerate manipulative behavior going forward. Or be done now. Either way, her behavior needs to be in the past. OP's wife better wake up or she'll find out what it's like to be a single parent rather than a stay-at-home mom. If she thinks her life sucks now, wait till she's a single parent. Not a-hole. Staying at home parenting only works when both sides agree to it. It's not a free get-out-of-working card that you pull and try to manipulate your other half into. In addition to the crap she pulled with a brother-in-law, which is pure disrespect to all the other three at the table, simultaneously insinuating that 1, brother-in-law would have picked her over his wife, 2, that his wife/her sister can be easily replaced, and 3, that her husband, OP, is just as easily replaced for someone with the ability to let her stay at home and be a freeloader. Your response may be harsh, but she deserves it. Not the a-hole, but your relationship is unsustainable as you want different things. Outside of couples counseling, this wedge issue will grow. Lol at wanting different things, she doesn't want to work. What's she realistically going to do? They can split up and she'll be a single mom. Yeah, that'll be less stressful. She might find a man who wants a housewife, and OP would be paying child support and alimony since she earns probably a lot less. I think OP and his wife shouldn't have married because they wanted different things from a partner. I mean, they can't change the past. They're in this situation now. All that can be done is to try and find a compromise to stay the course or go their separate ways and deal with the consequences. People don't know what they don't know, and they probably didn't marry knowing they'd be at this standstill. Edit/mini update. Thank you, everyone. You have provided me good perspective, and I didn't expect so many replies. The majority seem to think like me, so I'm glad that I am not completely off the rocker. I have been thinking about my situation for some years now, and I don't remember when I last was happy. Every time I approached divorce, she would promise to start looking for schools and change careers. It'll probably happen now too, but we need to rip the band-aid off this relationship. Neither is happy. We don't have alimony here, and no child support since our son will have divided time between us. She will have to find a new job or work more hours at her current job to provide for herself until she finds/if she finds a new provider. But that won't be my problem anymore. I am done. Thanks. Next story. Am I the a-hole for thinking that my younger brother does not deserve to have 50% of the family business? I'm 30 years old. I've been working at my family business since I was 13 years old, with about 3 years off from 20 to 23 years old to other jobs and then return again. So about 14 years in total. I work every day about 5 hours to 16 hours shifts, average 60 to 70 hours a week, except for January and February that are almost totally off because of off-season. My brother is 22 years old, going on with his studies, and has not worked even 10 days in total because my parents love to spoil him, and has just started an unpaid internship in IT through my connections. My mother and father are 50% owners each, and I get paid as an employee even though I have many bonuses and investments they made for me. Most of my decisions in the backroom are taken by me, and I also take care of almost everything, such as meeting clients, finances, web management, social media posts and support, email support, driving, etc., etc. My mother just told me that when she'll step down, her 50% part of the business is going to my younger brother. I think this is totally not fair. I told her that about everything else, I accept everything to get divided at 50%, but just not for the business. Especially because there wasn't any help coming from him building the business, and won't be any help coming from him in the future, and he'll still get the 50% cut at the end of the day? I love my brother with all of my heart, but I think this is unacceptable. My mother is now really mad at me for not accepting her terms, and I told her that if you go on this way, I'll just start my own business today, and you can do what you want with yours. I would greatly appreciate your thoughts and advice on this, guys. Thank you so much for taking your time to read and reply to my post. Not a-hole, and I would say it's better to start your exit plan and stop any help you give them, including your brother. Anything they do conditionally will have no value. I would even ask for all benefits denied due to unrecognized work during the time you supported them as a child to be restored. If my sacrifices as a member of the family do not give me a greater share than those who did not sacrifice, it means I was just another employee and therefore deserve the corresponding compensation. Moreover, I would suggest you tell them you will not discuss any terms unless it's with a lawyer, your own labor lawyer or their business lawyer, ensuring you receive a fair part of the business effectively, not just promises. This reminds me of the dad who gave the business to his other son, not the one who spent years in the company and had the knowledge to run it. Think they were electricians or something similar. Get yourself away from the sinking ship and back yourself. Don't devote your life to something they just give to your brother. Not a-hole. I remember that one. I think they were plumbers or electricians maybe. The son left and started his own company while the golden child ran dad's company into the ground. Dad and golden child assumed the son would just keep going and not care that he got screwed. I remember that one. I felt really bad for the guy who started his own company because his family treated him so poorly. But while I felt bad for him, I just didn't feel badly for his family when their business tanked. You abused your main employee. You can't be truly stunned when they leave. And that was one of the most horrible things I think I've read a family doing to somebody in a long time. There was another story where OP worked his way up the business and didn't go to college, while his brother studied business management. When the brother graduated, the parents gave him control of the business. The OP resigned and started his own business in the same field. Within a few years, OP's company flourished, while the brother ran the business into the ground, mostly because he lost clients due to bad decisions and they moved to OP's new company. Then his parents wanted him to give the brother a partnership in his company, but he refused and offered the brother a job as an employee, in a lower position and at a starting salary. I think the brother refused, and the parents were angry. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not ordering food so I wouldn't have to split the bill? I, 27 male, have been a part of a small friend group, around 8 people total, basically since college. For some background, 2 people from the group, Susan and Greg, are just absolute leeches. Going out for lunch? Expect them to order the most expensive on the menu, then feed you some sob story about their finances and then dump half the bill on you. Last weekend, Dan, one of the people from the group, told me about a casual dinner. I told him how if Susan or Greg were there, I wouldn't be able to come. He tells me that they would be there, but I should just put my opinions aside and come just once. This is kind of where I might be the a-hole. I agree with him and told him I would be there. I show up and we all get to talking. Everyone began putting in their orders. Most of them spent about $40. There were only about 6 people there. When it gets to Susan and Greg, they both order expensive dishes, around $200. When it was my turn to order, everyone looked at me, but I just picked up the menu and pointed a $4 Miller Lite and sent the waiter away. Dan asked why I hadn't ordered anything, and all I said was that I lost my appetite. The other 2 friends got up as well to cancel their orders and just have drinks. After the main courses came out, I saw Susan and Greg picking at their food. The waiter then brings over the check. Greg then grabs the waiter and asks him to split the check 6 ways. I stand up and correct him, saying the check was to be split 3 ways. Greg looks at me confused and asks why, since we always split the bill. I reminded him that 3 of us had not eaten any food, so we would just be paying our drinks. So basically, at the end of the night, Dan, who probably only ate around $50 worth of food, was stuck with a $146.98 check at the end. Yes, I remember the exact number. I swear I saw his jaw dropped when he picked the receipt up. I slid a $10 towards the check, said goodbye everyone, and walked out. The next morning, I found my phone full of texts from Greg and Susan, telling me I was an a-hole for not ordering any food and forcing them to pay more than they had accounted for. I honestly laughed because the steaks alone were more than what they had paid, but to each their own, right? I also got a lot of messages from Dan saying that I could just have not come instead of pulling that stunt and getting him stuck with an outrageous bill. Edit: at this restaurant, the bar is separate, so drinks are on a separate bill, if that makes sense. And if anyone is concerned about leaving a tip, I live in Australia. To clarify some things, 1, 90% of restaurants where I live, they don't do separate checks and might separate the bill for you if you're lucky. By the way, this post is in Australian dollars. 2, Dan could have easily asked Greg and Susan to transfer him the money if he wanted, but it's always been about helping them through their financial hardship even, though they're just using him and keeps dragging me into it. I admit what I did was immature, but I'm tired of being forced to play along. It's his money, and if he wants to spend it on them, that's fine, but I'm not paying for them. 3, also, Dan's a really good friend of mine, albeit blind AF. I was just trying to get him to see what kind of people he was helping. I will admit, it was a tad bit petty. Now for the top comments. I also got a lot of messages from Dan saying that I could have just not come, instead of pulling that stunt and getting him stuck with an outrageous bill. You try that. He didn't let you. This is entirely on him. He fooled around and found out. Not the a-hole. Don't even start me about Susan and Greg. They actually had to pay for their own meal? Poor babies. I think this is extra brilliant, and what a bonus that the other people at the dinner realized what Opie was doing and went along with him. How perfect to get Dan alone stuck with their bill. Maybe he'll stop inviting them, and you can all hang out instead of having to deal with Susan and Greg. Susan and Greg still didn't pay for their own meal. Dan paid 1/3 of each of their meals. They still got a discount. The steaks they ate cost more than they paid per OP. For real, one time a meal with my friends was like $2 more than anyone else's, and I offered to cover my own check because I felt like a mooch. They were like, you're fine. I couldn't imagine ordering that much food and expecting everyone to cover your bill. This is hilarious and a smart overdue move. No prizes for guessing what Dan will order next time. Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my friend after I caught her planning a secret home remodel? So I inherited a house from my dad a few years ago. It's a 3-bedroom place in a nice neighborhood where rent usually goes for about $2,500+ a month. Since I don't pay rent but have to cover upkeep and insurance, I figured having a roommate would be a good idea. One of my close friends who works from home seemed like a good fit. I did the math and decided $800 a month would cover everything comfortably. When I offered her the room, she asked if she could pay $500 a month for the first few months until she got settled in her new job. I agreed because $500 still covered the bills, and I wasn't looking to profit off her. A few months in, she started acting really weird. She'd constantly send me out of the house, to the store, to pick up her boyfriend, to get coffee for us, but she never wanted to come with me. I thought it was odd, but didn't think much of it at first. Then things got really suspicious. She was always video chatting when I wasn't around, and I caught glimpses that looked like she was talking to construction guys. One day, I snooped and found texts between her and several renovation companies asking for quotes to remodel my house. She was saving money on rent to secretly plan a home remodel in my house, which I did not approve of. She even tried gifting me a week's stay in Vegas a few weeks ago, probably hoping I'd leave so she could start the remodel. I told her I don't like to leave for that long, which now I'm super glad I did. When I confronted her, she swore she wasn't actually going to go through with it, but I don't believe her. The texts and video chats were pretty convincing, and I saw my address in every quote. I kicked her out because I couldn't trust her anymore. Also, haven't spoken since she left. My house has a lot of sentimental value to me, and I love its antique charm. I'm so glad it trusted my gut and stayed. So, am I the a-hole for kicking her out? Why would you do that? Claim part ownership of the house because she invested in it? This is exactly what I thought. Yeah, assuming she did, not only could you sue her into oblivion, you could probably also sue the construction company for not checking ownership status. Paint and cosmetics or whatever, knocking down a wall is a huge no-no. You are the owner, but she is a tenant. I'm just a tenant, so I can't alter my place. Considering that she was attempting to do it behind your back, you made a correct decision. If she had talked to you, perhaps you two might have decided on anything to modify or nothing at all. Not a-hole. Check your credit, check the deed to your home. Get cameras, and if you saw the contractor's name, call them and let them know you are the owner of the home and never approved of any work. She's doing this because she wants to claim that she made a substantial investment and now she's a part owner. Kick her out. She made or attempted to make alterations to your house without your consent. Also, please tell me you had her sign a lease, even if it was a basic template from online. Either way, go to a landlord/tenant lawyer and get this sorted out right away. You have no time to waste here. So let's say she was going for that and wanted to stake in equity. OP takes her to court as well as the contractor. The first thing a lawyer would ask is if the renter ever got written permission of any kind. Then they would ask the contractors if they have confirmed ownership. Since both of those would be no, she would lose and probably be sued to revert it, and the contractors would have a huge asterisk in their records.